The unexpected awakening. John Reyes jolted awake inside his cryopod, gasping for air as a wave of panic seized him. His lungs felt like they were on fire, and terror gripped his chest, squeezing tightly. His eyes snapped open, and he saw that the glass of the pod was frosted over. With a desperate shove, Reyes slammed the release button, and the pod hissed open. He tumbled out onto the cold, metal floor of the Aurora's cryo bay, his bones aching and muscles cramping from the extended dormancy. Around him, the sounds of groggy colonists began to fill the room. Hundreds of cryopods were opening, and disoriented passengers were staggering out, coughing and retching. These were humanity's last hope, travelers on a mission to Alpha Centauri to escape the devastation that had consumed Earth. The Aurora was meant to be their sanctuary, but as Reyes looked around, a chill of dread settled in his stomach. The cryo bay, usually bustling with technicians, was eerily silent except for the hissing of pods and the moans of the revived passengers. Something was terribly wrong. The absence of the cryotechnicians was the first hint. Reyes struggled to his feet, joints popping, and his heart raced with growing apprehension. A crackling voice burst over the intercom, cutting through the murmur of confusion. Captain Hernandez's voice was strained but clear. "Attention, Aurora passengers. You may be confused and disoriented from cryo sleep. I know you have questions. I will explain our situation shortly." Reyes's anxiety mounted as the captain continued. "We reached the Alpha Centauri system, but there were complications with our cryopods. They malfunctioned." A long pause followed before the captain delivered the devastating news. "We have been in cryo sleep for 500,000 years." The announcement sent a shockwave through the crowd. Reyes's stomach dropped. 500,000 years. 500,000 years. It was unthinkable. The journey they had undertaken, the new beginning they had hoped for, now seemed a distant, cruel joke. Frantic, Reyes pushed through the stunned crowd to the cryo bay viewport. His hands shook as he peered out. What should have been a lush, green world was now a barren wasteland. Alpha Centauri B2, the planet they had traveled a century to reach, was nothing but a lifeless, gray desert beneath swirling yellow clouds. Panic spread like wildfire through the cryo bay. Shouts and cries filled the air as the colonists grappled with the harsh reality of their situation. Reyes clenched his fists, his mind racing. Their families, their friends, everything they had known on Earth was gone. The hope they had pinned on Alpha Centauri B2 was now a shattered dream. Before Reyes could fully process the enormity of their loss, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red lights flashed and Captain Hernandez's voice came through again, urgent and commanding. "All personnel to stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, all personnel to stations." Reyes's military training kicked in immediately. He shook off the lingering grogginess of cryo sleep and sprinted down the corridor toward engineering. He dodged groggy colonists who stumbled out of their pods, their faces etched with fear and confusion. The doors to engineering slid open, revealing a scene of controlled chaos. Engineers were hunched over consoles, their hands flying across interfaces as they worked to restore the Aurora's systems after 500,000 years of dormancy. Chief Engineer Tanaka barked orders, her face lined with worry. "Tanaka, what's our status?" Reyes called out, his voice cutting through the din. Tanaka spun around, her expression grim. "We've got multiple unknown spacecraft approaching. They're not responding to hails." Reyes's blood ran cold. After 500,000 years, they had no idea what they were dealing with. The ships could be hostile, but there was no time to consider the possibilities. A massive impact rocked the Aurora, and the deck heaved beneath Reyes's feet. He grabbed onto a console to keep from being thrown to the floor. The ship shuddered violently again, and the lights flickered before plunging the room into darkness. Emergency lighting bathed the space in an eerie red glow. Reyes shouted over the chaos, "Report. Primary power is down." An engineer yelled back, switching to auxiliary. Captain Hernandez's strained voice crackled over the comms once more. "Hostiles have breached the cargo hold. security teams to the cargo hold immediately. Adrenaline surged through Reyes's veins as he sprinted to the weapons locker. He grabbed a rifle, slapped in a power cell, and sprinted for the door. His heart pounded as he raced through the flickering corridors, past crew members who were racing to their stations, their faces tense with determination and fear. Reyes burst into the cargo hold, his rifle at the ready. The scene before him was nothing short of a battlefield. Emergency lights strobing red painted the area in harsh, vivid strokes. Aurora's security teams were entrenched behind crates and equipment, firing desperately at the attacking aliens. The invaders were tall, pale beings clad in sleek, black armor that seemed to absorb the light. Their movements were fluid and precise as they advanced, their energy weapons flashing. The human ballistic rounds sparked harmlessly off the aliens' shimmering energy shields. Reyes cursed under his breath, realizing their weapons were nearly useless. He scanned the chaos, searching for a way to turn the tide. Sergeant Hawkins, pinned down behind a forklift, was under heavy fire. Reyes sprinted forward, sliding into cover beside her. "About time you showed up," Hawkins shouted over the din, firing her rifle wildly. Reyes returned fire, drawing the aliens' attention away from Hawkins. Together, they fought back, their combined firepower making a significant impact. As the battle raged on, Reyes spotted an alien in ornate armor, a clear leader of the invading force. The alien's strange rifle hummed ominously as it raised the weapon. A sizzling green plasma bolt shot out, vaporizing a nearby security officer in an instant. "Fall back," Reyes roared. He and Hawkins scrambled to retreat as the alien commander, identified by the markings on his armor as Corvus, advanced. Plasma bolts flashed past them, claiming more lives. Reyes heard a groan and turned to see a wounded officer struggling on the deck. Before he could help, Corvus stomped on the man, crushing him beneath his boot. "Surrender," Corvus growled, his voice dripping with disdain. "This system belongs to the Andromedan Empire now. Surrender, and your lives may be spared." Reyes grabbed Hawkins's arm. "We have to move now." They sprinted for the cargo hold doors, plasma bolts sizzling past their heads. Reyes slammed his fist against the control panel, and the blast doors began to slide shut. He and Hawkins dove through the narrowing gap just before the doors sealed with a resounding thud. Panting heavily, they leaned against the wall in the corridor. Captain Hernandez's voice came through the comms once again, strained but resolute. "All hands, this is the captain. I know our situation seems dire, but we cannot surrender. The Aurora is our only chance for survival, our only hope of carrying on humanity's legacy. We will not let that hope die today. Stand fast and repel these invaders. Hernandez out." Reyes locked eyes with Hawkins. She nodded, determination etched on her face. They pushed off the wall and raced down the corridor, the captain's words spurring them onward. Resistance in the shadows. As Reyes and Hawkins moved through the ship's corridors, the oppressive silence that followed the recent battle was broken only by the distant hum of malfunctioning machinery and the occasional crackle of the intercom. Their steps echoed in the dimly lit hallways, every corner a potential ambush. The alien invaders had breached multiple sections of the ship, and the situation seemed dire. The once familiar corridors of the Aurora now felt alien themselves. Emergency lights cast long, eerie shadows, and the smell of smoke and burnt metal lingered in the air. Reyes, leading the way, held his rifle tightly, his senses alert to every sound. Hawkins, her face smeared with grime, was just as vigilant. They reached a junction where the hallway split into two directions. Reyes paused, his mind racing. "We need to find a way to regroup with the rest of the crew," he said, glancing at Hawkins. Hawkins nodded. "The command center should be nearby. If we can secure it, we might be able to coordinate a counteroffensive." The two made their way to the command center, encountering sporadic pockets of resistance from the invading aliens. The Aurora's crew fought valiantly, but the advanced technology and superior firepower of the Andromedan Empire overwhelmed them. The corridors were littered with debris and the occasional fallen soldier. Reyes and Hawkins managed to reach a secure access door that led to the command center. With a quick swipe of their ID cards and a brief security check, the door slid open, revealing the nerve center of the ship. The command center was in chaos, with personnel scrambling to restore systems and fend off alien attacks. Captain Hernandez, Reyes called out as he and Hawkins entered. The captain, haggard and covered in grime, looked up from a console where she was coordinating the defense efforts. "Reyes, Hawkins, I'm glad to see you made it," Hernandez said, her voice a mix of relief and stress. "We're facing a coordinated attack from multiple fronts. We need to stabilize our defenses and push these invaders back." Hawkins, who was still catching her breath from the earlier mission, replied, "We've secured the backup power sources and integrated them into the ship's systems. The crew's holding up well, but morale could use a boost. Everyone's aware that this next push will be crucial." Reyes looked around at his team. They had fought valiantly and survived, but they were aware that the true test was yet to come. "We need to come up with a plan that will not only defend the Aurora, but also give us a strategic advantage. Any ideas?" One of the officers, Lieutenant Martinez, spoke up. "If we can predict Corvus's next move, we might be able to set a trap. They're likely to regroup and then launch another assault with a different strategy. We could use our knowledge of the ship's layout to create a choke point." Reyes considered this. "A choke point could work, but we'll need to make sure it's heavily fortified and that we can channel the enemy into it. We also need to ensure that we have the manpower and resources to hold it." Hawkins interjected, "We've got access to some of the Aurora's experimental weaponry. If we can rig them to focus on a specific area, we could inflict significant damage on Corvus's forces when they try to break through." Reyes weighed the options. A choke point combined with experimental weaponry could indeed turn the tide in their favor. "All right, let's get to work on setting up the trap. I want every available crew member involved in fortifying the choke point. Carter, you and your team will oversee the integration of the experimental weaponry." As the crew worked on their new strategy, Reyes took a moment to reflect on the situation. The battle had tested their resolve, but it had also revealed their strength and ingenuity. They were on the brink of something pivotal, and the outcome of the next engagement could determine the fate of the Aurora and its crew. Hours passed in a blur of activity as the crew prepared for the anticipated assault. The choke point was reinforced with barricades, automated defenses, and traps set to funnel the aliens into a kill zone. The experimental weaponry was positioned strategically to maximize its impact. The tension was palpable as the crew awaited the arrival of Corvus's forces. Each crew member was acutely aware of the gravity of the situation. They had one chance to make this strategy work, and failure was not an option. As the enemy forces began to approach, Reyes and his team took their positions. The command center was abuzz with activity, and the crew was poised, ready for the fight. Reyes felt a surge of adrenaline, a mix of anticipation and determination. This was their moment to turn the tide. The first wave of aliens charged into the choke point, and the trap was sprung. The automated defenses activated, and the experimental weaponry unleashed a devastating barrage. The alien forces were caught off guard, their advance faltering as they were pummeled by the concentrated firepower. Corvus's forces struggled to adapt, but the carefully laid trap had given the crew a significant advantage. The choke point was holding, and the alien forces were being systematically pushed back. Reyes watched with a mix of relief and focus as the battle unfolded. The intense firefight continued, with the crew fighting bravely and efficiently. The tide of the battle had indeed turned, but Corvus was not one to concede easily. The alien commander, though frustrated, was determined to break through the human defenses. The battle raged on, each moment a testament to the crew's resolve and ingenuity. Reyes could see the fatigue in his crew's faces, but their determination never wavered. They were fighting not just for survival, but for the future of humanity. As the engagement dragged on, Corvus's forces began to retreat once more. The trap had worked, but the battle was far from over. The crew of the Aurora had earned a hard-fought victory, but they knew that the alien threat was still looming. Reyes and his team took a moment to catch their breath, their minds already racing with thoughts of what was to come. They had gained a crucial advantage, but the fight was far from over. Corvus would undoubtedly regroup and return with new strategies. As the crew regrouped and prepared for the next phase, Reyes felt a renewed sense of determination. The Aurora's crew had proven their resilience and strength, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The battle for survival was far from over, but the human spirit continued to shine brightly. "Fall back to the secondary control room," Reyes shouted over the cacophony of battle. "We need to set up a new defensive position and buy some time." Hawkins nodded, her expression determined. "Understood. Let's go." The two fighters retreated through the corridors, their path marked by the debris and smoke of the ongoing battle. They fought their way through the ship's labyrinthine passages, encountering pockets of alien resistance along the way. The Aurora's crew members, though outnumbered, fought valiantly, their determination evident in every skirmish. As they reached the secondary control room, Reyes and Hawkins were relieved to find that it was still operational, though heavily damaged. The room was a mess of overturned furniture and malfunctioning equipment, but it provided a temporary haven from the chaos outside. Reyes immediately began organizing the crew, assigning tasks and fortifying their new position. "We need to set up barricades and reinforce our defenses. We're going to make this the last stand." The crew members worked quickly, their adrenaline fueling their efforts. The secondary control room's security systems were activated, and makeshift barricades were constructed from whatever materials were available. The air was thick with tension as everyone prepared for the inevitable assault. Meanwhile, Corvus and his alien forces continued their relentless advance. Their numbers seemed to be growing, and the pressure on the Aurora's defenses was mounting. The invaders were using every trick in their arsenal to breach the ship's critical areas. As the aliens approached the secondary control room, Reyes and Hawkins took up defensive positions. The door to the room was fortified with additional barriers, but the aliens' advanced weaponry was likely to breach it sooner or later. Reyes knew that their best chance was to hold off the aliens long enough for the remaining crew to evacuate or find a way to turn the tide of the battle. The first wave of aliens struck with brutal efficiency. Energy weapons and plasma blasts filled the corridor, and the barricades shuddered under the assault. Reyes and Hawkins fought with everything they had, their weapons blazing as they tried to repel the invaders. The room was filled with the sounds of gunfire, explosions, and the cries of wounded crew members. Despite their efforts, the aliens were making progress. Corvus, ever at the forefront, led his forces with a terrifying mixture of precision and ruthlessness. The alien leader seemed to anticipate every move, adapting to the humans' tactics with uncanny skill. Reyes's attention was drawn to the control panel, where technicians were working frantically to stabilize the ship's remaining systems. The crew's only hope was to hold the aliens at bay long enough for the ship to either recover or for an escape plan to be enacted. In the midst of the chaos, Reyes spotted a familiar face among the defenders. Lieutenant Carter, a skilled pilot who had been with the Aurora since its early missions. Carter was leading a group of engineers in setting up additional defensive measures, his determination evident in every action. "Carter," Reyes called out, running over to him. "We need those defenses up and running. How's it going?" Carter wiped sweat from his brow, his face set in a grim expression. "We're almost there, but we're running low on power. If we don't get these systems online soon, we won't be able to hold them off much longer." Reyes nodded, understanding the urgency. "Do whatever you can. We'll buy you as much time as possible." With renewed determination, Reyes and Hawkins focused on holding their position. The aliens were relentless, their attacks growing more intense with each passing moment. Despite their exhaustion and the overwhelming odds, the crew fought with a fierce resolve, their unity and courage shining through. As the battle raged on, Reyes couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The Aurora's fate, and the fate of those aboard, hinged on their ability to endure and find a way to turn the tide. With every passing minute, the pressure mounted, and the crew's resilience was put to the ultimate test. The turning point. The secondary control room had become a fortress of lost hope. Every crew member was engaged in the battle, their spirits unyielding despite the grim situation. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of burning electronics, and the constant barrage of enemy fire left little time for rest. Amid the chaos, Reyes noticed a shift in the alien tactics. Corvus's forces seemed to be regrouping, their attacks more coordinated than before. It was clear that the aliens were adapting, learning from the humans' defenses. Reyes knew that they needed a new strategy if they were to survive. Status report. Reyes shouted to Carter, who was still working furiously on the control panel. "We're making progress, but the energy cells are nearly depleted," Carter replied, frustration evident in his voice. "We need more power to fully activate the defensive systems." Reyes cursed under his breath. They were running out of time. "Hawkins, I need you to take a team and find an alternative power source. It might be our only chance." Hawkins nodded, rallying a small group of engineers and technicians. "We'll find something. Stay strong." As Hawkins and her team set out on their mission, Reyes turned his attention to the alien forces. Corvus had apparently decided to unleash a more aggressive assault, sending wave after wave of troops toward the secondary control room. The constant pressure was beginning to wear on the crew, but they fought with fierce determination, their unity a beacon of hope in the dark. The situation became even more desperate when the aliens managed to breach one of the barricades. The secondary control room was now under direct threat, and Reyes could see the fear and fatigue on the faces of his crew. Despite their best efforts, the sheer volume of enemy forces was overwhelming. Just as things seemed to reach a breaking point, a sudden explosion shook the room. Reyes and Hawkins, who had just returned with their team, were thrown off their feet. The blast had come from within the Aurora, and the source was not immediately clear. "Status report," Reyes demanded, scrambling to his feet. Carter, who had survived the explosion, pointed toward a damaged section of the control panel. "It looks like we've got a critical power failure. We're losing control of the remaining systems." The crew worked quickly to assess the damage. The explosion had caused significant disruption, and the secondary control room's defenses were compromised. Reyes could see the alien forces taking advantage of the situation, their advance becoming more aggressive and coordinated. Suddenly, a new wave of hope arrived. Hawkins and her team, having successfully located a reserve power source, entered the room with the vital equipment. "We've got the backup power," Hawkins called out. "Let's get it online and reinforce the defenses." The crew worked with renewed vigor, installing the backup power source and recalibrating the defensive systems. The additional power allowed them to restore some of the ship's automated defenses and reinforce their position. As the defenses came back online, the tide of the battle began to shift. The renewed strength of the Aurora's defenses gave the crew a fighting chance, and they were able to push back the aliens momentarily. Reyes could see the determination in his crew's eyes, the resolve hardened by the dire circumstances. Corvus, realizing that the situation was becoming precarious, ordered a temporary withdrawal. His forces retreated, regrouping outside the range of the Aurora's renewed defenses. The brief respite allowed Reyes and his crew to catch their breath and reassess their strategy. Reyes took a moment to survey the battlefield, his mind racing with thoughts of their next move. They had gained a small victory, but the alien threat was far from over. Corvus and his forces would undoubtedly return with renewed tactics and strength. The crew, though exhausted, was invigorated by the brief respite. They knew that the upcoming battle would be even more challenging, but they were ready to face it head-on. Reyes and Hawkins shared a brief nod of mutual understanding. Their fight was far from over, but their unity and resilience were their greatest assets. As the crew prepared for the next phase of the battle, Reyes felt a flicker of hope. The Aurora's crew had proven their courage and strength, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The struggle was far from over, but with each passing moment, the determination of the human spirit shone ever brighter. The strategy unfolds. The lull in the fighting was a welcome reprieve, but it was also a moment of tension. Corvus's retreat gave the crew of the Aurora a chance to regroup, but the alien commander's next move was unpredictable. Reyes and his senior officers gathered in the command center to formulate their next strategy. "All right, we've got a brief window," Reyes began, his voice steady but firm. "We need to use this time wisely. Carter, how are the repairs coming along?" Carter glanced up from his console, wiping sweat from his brow. "We've managed to stabilize the power systems and reinforced the shields. We've also managed to get some of the ship's weapon systems back online, but we need more time to get everything fully operational." Reyes nodded, his gaze shifting to Hawkins. "Hawkins, how's the team? Any updates on the reserve supplies?" Hawkins, who was still catching her breath from the earlier mission, replied, "We've secured the backup power sources and integrated them into the ship's systems. The crew's holding up well, but morale could use a boost. Everyone's aware that this next push will be crucial." Reyes looked around at his team. They had fought valiantly and survived, but they were aware that the true test was yet to come. "We need to come up with a plan that will not only defend the Aurora, but also give us a strategic advantage. Any ideas?" One of the officers, Lieutenant Martinez, spoke up. "If we can predict Corvus's next move, we might be able to set a trap. They're likely to regroup and then launch another assault with a different strategy. We could use our knowledge of the ship's layout to create a choke point." Reyes considered this. "A choke point could work, but we'll need to make sure it's heavily fortified and that we can channel the enemy into it. We also need to ensure that we have the manpower and resources to hold it." Hawkins interjected, "We've got access to some of the Aurora's experimental weaponry. If we can rig them to focus on a specific area, we could inflict significant damage on Corvus's forces when they try to break through." Reyes weighed the options. A choke point combined with experimental weaponry could indeed turn the tide in their favor. "All right, let's get to work on setting up the trap. I want every available crew member involved in fortifying the choke point. Carter, you and your team will oversee the integration of the experimental weaponry." As the crew worked on their new strategy, Reyes took a moment to reflect on the situation. The battle had tested their resolve, but it had also revealed their strength and ingenuity. They were on the brink of something pivotal, and the outcome of the next engagement could determine the fate of the Aurora and its crew. Hours passed in a blur of activity as the crew prepared for the anticipated assault. The choke point was reinforced with barricades, automated defenses, and traps set to funnel the aliens into a kill zone. The experimental weaponry was positioned strategically to maximize its impact. The tension was palpable as the crew awaited the arrival of Corvus's forces. Each crew member was acutely aware of the gravity of the situation. They had one chance to make this strategy work, and failure was not an option. As the enemy forces began to approach, Reyes and his team took their positions. The command center was abuzz with activity, and the crew was poised, ready for the fight. Reyes felt a surge of adrenaline, a mix of anticipation and determination. This was their moment to turn the tide. The first wave of aliens charged into the choke point, and the trap was sprung. The automated defenses activated, and the experimental weaponry unleashed a devastating barrage. The alien forces were caught off guard, their advance faltering as they were pummeled by the concentrated firepower. Corvus's forces struggled to adapt, but the carefully laid trap had given the crew a significant advantage. The choke point was holding, and the alien forces were being systematically pushed back. Reyes watched with a mix of relief and focus as the battle unfolded. The intense firefight continued, with the crew fighting bravely and efficiently. The tide of the battle had indeed turned, but Corvus was not one to concede easily. The alien commander, though frustrated, was determined to break through the human defenses. The battle raged on, each moment a testament to the crew's resolve and ingenuity. Reyes could see the fatigue in his crew's faces, but their determination never wavered. They were fighting not just for survival, but for the future of humanity. As the engagement dragged on, Corvus's forces began to retreat once more. The trap had worked, but the battle was far from over. The crew of the Aurora had earned a hard-fought victory, but they knew that the alien threat was still looming. Reyes and his team took a moment to catch their breath, their minds already racing with thoughts of what was to come. They had gained a crucial advantage, but the fight was far from over. Corvus would undoubtedly regroup and return with new strategies. As the crew regrouped and prepared for the next phase, Reyes felt a renewed sense of determination. The Aurora's crew had proven their resilience and strength, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The battle for survival was far from over, but the human spirit continued to shine brightly. Reyes nodded. "We've managed to fend off a few attackers, but we're heavily outnumbered. Do we have any intel on their numbers or strategy?" Hernandez tapped a few controls on the console, bringing up a holographic map of the ship. The invaders seem to be targeting critical systems and key areas. Their goal appears to be the ship's core and navigation systems. If they succeed in taking those out, we'll be stranded. "Do we have any countermeasures?" Hawkins asked. The captain sighed. "We've set up defensive perimeters around the most critical sections, but they're pushing through faster than we can respond. Our options are limited." A sudden jolt shook the command center, causing the lights to flicker. "They're breaching the core chamber," a technician shouted. "Damn it," Hernandez muttered. "We need to hold them off until we can secure the core chamber." Reyes glanced at Hawkins. "We need to reinforce the core chamber. If we lose that, we lose everything." Without waiting for a response, Reyes and Hawkins sprinted through the corridors toward the core chamber. The ship's security systems had been activated, and automated defenses were engaging the invaders. However, the aliens' superior technology was beginning to overpower the ship's defenses. As they approached the core chamber, Reyes could see the intensity of the battle. The corridor was lined with fallen crew members and debris from the ongoing firefight. The core chamber door, reinforced and heavily shielded, was the last line of defense before the ship's most critical area. Reyes and Hawkins took positions near the door, setting up a makeshift barricade with whatever they could find. The door's control panel was already damaged, and the manual override had been activated. "We need to hold them off until the crew can reset the defenses," Reyes shouted, peering around the corner. "Get ready." The aliens, led by the imposing figure of Corvus, were advancing relentlessly. The core chamber's defenses were holding, but the constant pressure was taking its toll. Reyes could see the strain on the faces of the defenders as they fought back, their ammunition running low. A loud explosion rocked the corridor as an alien breach team used plasma charges to force their way through. The door to the core chamber groaned under the assault, and Reyes knew they had only moments before it gave way. Hawkins was crouched beside him, her rifle steady. "They're coming through. We need to take out their breach team before they get inside." Reyes nodded, bracing himself as the door finally gave way with a violent blast. The aliens charged through, their leader, Corvus, at the forefront. The defenders fell back, trying to regroup and hold the line. Reyes and Hawkins opened fire, their rifles blazing as they tried to halt the alien advance. Corvus moved with terrifying speed, his energy weapon cutting through the defenders like a scythe. Reyes aimed carefully, targeting the alien leader with precise shots. Hawkins provided cover fire, her bullets ricocheting off Corvus's energy shield. Despite their best efforts, the aliens began to push into the core chamber. The situation was deteriorating rapidly, and Reyes knew that their only chance was to hold out long enough for the rest of the crew to regain control. Suddenly, the ship's alarms blared, and a new set of orders came through the intercom. All personnel, prepare for emergency evacuation. The core chamber is compromised. Repeat, prepare for evacuation. Reyes's heart sank. If they couldn't hold the core chamber, the ship would be lost. But they couldn't abandon their post. With a final determined effort, Reyes and Hawkins fought back the invaders, their focus solely on protecting the core chamber and buying precious time for the evacuation. As the battle raged on, Reyes knew that the fate of the Aurora, and the remnants of humanity's last hope, hung in the balance. The struggle was far from over, and the outcome would depend on their courage, resilience, and the strength of their resolve. The desperate fight. The alarms continued to blare, echoing through the halls of the Aurora as Reyes and Hawkins fought desperately to hold their position. The core chamber was now a battleground, with alien forces led by Corvus pressing their attack with relentless aggression. The ship's automated defenses were struggling to keep up, and the situation was growing increasingly dire. Reyes glanced at Hawkins, their eyes meeting for a brief moment of silent communication. Both knew that holding the core chamber was no longer a viable option. They needed to fall back and regroup with the remaining crew if they had any hope of surviving this onslaught. The aftermath of the battle left a profound impact on the Aurora and its crew. The ship, though battered and scarred, had survived the brutal onslaught of Corvus and his forces. The crew's resilience and ingenuity had not only secured their immediate safety, but had also reshaped their place in the galaxy. The war was over, but the echoes of their victory would ripple through the stars. In the command center, the mood was a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The crew members worked tirelessly to repair and recalibrate the ship's systems. The intense battle had left its mark, but their spirits remained high. Reyes and his senior officers conducted a thorough assessment of the damage, determining what repairs were needed and prioritizing their tasks. Lieutenant Martinez, who had been a key player in the battle, approached Reyes with a concerned look. "We've managed to restore most of the critical systems, but we're running low on some key resources. It's going to take time to get everything fully operational." Reyes nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We'll manage. We always do. Let's focus on the essentials first and get the ship back to full operational status." As the crew continued their repairs, the comm system buzzed with incoming transmissions. The galaxy was abuzz with news of the Aurora's victory. Reports of the battle had spread quickly, and messages of congratulations and support poured in from various factions and allied forces. One particular transmission caught Reyes's attention. It was from Admiral Larkin, a high-ranking officer in the Galactic Coalition. The message was filled with gratitude and admiration for the Aurora's crew and their bravery. "Commander Reyes," Larkin's voice came through the comm system, "I want to personally commend you and your crew for your extraordinary efforts. The defeat of Corvus and his forces has shifted the balance in our favor, and your role in this victory cannot be overstated. We will be sending a delegation to formally honor your crew and discuss the future of our alliance." Reyes's face lit up with a mixture of pride and relief. "Thank you, Admiral. We appreciate the support. We'll be ready to discuss the next steps." The crew's morale was lifted by the recognition and support from their allies. The victory had brought them a sense of accomplishment and a renewed determination to rebuild and strengthen their position in the galaxy. As the days passed, the Aurora's crew worked tirelessly to repair their ship and address the damage from the battle. The camaraderie among the crew grew stronger, their shared experiences forging bonds that would last a lifetime. The once bleak outlook had transformed into one of hope and possibility. In the quiet moments between repairs, Reyes reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. The battles fought, the challenges overcome, and the resilience of his crew had been nothing short of extraordinary. The Aurora had become more than just a ship. It was a symbol of human strength and ingenuity. One evening, as the ship's repairs neared completion, Reyes gathered the crew for a brief meeting in the mess hall. The room was filled with tired but satisfied faces, their expressions reflecting the pride and relief they felt. "Everyone," Reyes began, his voice carrying a tone of gratitude and encouragement, "we've been through a lot together. We faced overwhelming odds and emerged victorious. I want to thank each and every one of you for your hard work, your courage, and your unwavering dedication. This victory is not just ours. It belongs to every person who believed in the Aurora and its mission." The crew responded with a cheer, their spirits buoyed by Reyes's words. The mess hall, once a place of rest and camaraderie, now felt like a space of celebration and unity. As the crew continued to rebuild and repair, they also took time to reflect on the impact of their victory. The galaxy was still a vast and uncertain place, but their triumph had created a ripple of hope and possibility. The Aurora had become a beacon of resilience, and its crew had proven that even in the darkest times, humanity's ingenuity and determination could shine through. The delegation from the Galactic Coalition arrived, bringing with them accolades and support for the Aurora's crew. The formal ceremony was a testament to the significance of their victory and the impact they had made on the galaxy. With the formalities behind them, the crew of the Aurora looked toward the future with renewed hope. Their victory had paved the way for new alliances and opportunities, and they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the ship set a course for new horizons, the crew was filled with a sense of purpose and determination. The battle was over, but their journey was far from complete. They had proven their mettle and forged a new path in the galaxy, and they were ready to continue their mission with the same courage and resolve that had seen them through their greatest challenge. The story of the Aurora and its crew would become a legend, a testament to human strength and resilience. Their journey had just begun, and they were prepared to face whatever the galaxy had in store for them. The echoes of their victory would resonate through the stars, a reminder of the power of determination and the boundless possibilities of the future. New horizons. The Aurora, now fully repaired and upgraded, prepared to embark on a new mission. The crew's success in the recent conflict had earned them respect and recognition across the galaxy. Their next objective was to explore new regions and establish diplomatic relations with previously unknown civilizations. The victory over Corvus had opened doors to new opportunities, and the Aurora was ready to take on the challenge. Captain Reyes stood on the bridge, surveying the crew as they finalized their preparations. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of anticipation and excitement. The Aurora had become a symbol of hope and resilience, and its crew was eager to see where their next adventure would lead them. Lieutenant Martinez approached Reyes with a datapad in hand. "Captain, we've received new coordinates from the Galactic Coalition. They've identified several potential contact points with uncharted civilizations. It's up to us to make the first contact and assess the potential for alliance or cooperation." Reyes glanced at the datapad, his eyes scanning the coordinates and details. "Excellent. We've got our work cut out for us. Let's set a course for the first location and prepare for a thorough exploration. This is a significant opportunity for us to make a positive impact." The crew busied themselves with their tasks, setting the Aurora on a new trajectory. As the ship entered warp speed, the crew gathered in the mess hall for a brief meeting to discuss their mission objectives. Reyes addressed the crew, his voice filled with enthusiasm. "We've accomplished something remarkable, but our journey is far from over. Our new mission is to explore unknown regions and establish relationships with new civilizations. This is our chance to build alliances, share knowledge, and make a lasting impression on the galaxy. I have no doubt that each of you will rise to the occasion and continue to make us proud." The crew responded with nods of agreement and determination. The atmosphere in the mess hall was one of unity and excitement. The challenges they had faced had only strengthened their resolve, and they were ready to embrace the new opportunities that lay ahead. As the Aurora approached the first set of coordinates, the crew prepared for the initial contact. The unfamiliar star systems and planets came into view, and the ship's sensors began to scan for signs of civilization. The anticipation was palpable, and the crew worked diligently to ensure that they were ready for any eventuality. The first planet they encountered was a lush green world with signs of advanced technology. The Aurora established communication with the planet's inhabitants, a species known as the Varan, who were both curious and cautious. The initial contact was polite and respectful, with both sides eager to learn more about each other. The Varan welcomed the crew to their planet, and a diplomatic delegation was sent to establish formal relations. The initial meetings were successful, with both sides exchanging information about their cultures, technologies, and values. The Varan were impressed by the Aurora's achievements and expressed interest in forming an alliance. As the negotiations progressed, the crew of the Aurora marveled at the Varan's advanced technology and unique way of life. The cultural exchange was enriching for both sides, and new alliances were formed. The Varan became a valuable ally, and their cooperation opened up new possibilities for further exploration and collaboration. With the successful establishment of relations with the Varan, the Aurora set its sights on the next set of coordinates. Each new civilization brought its own set of challenges and opportunities, and the crew was prepared to face them with the same determination and ingenuity that had guided them through their previous trials. As the days turned into weeks, the Aurora continued its mission of exploration and diplomacy. The crew's efforts were met with increasing success, and their reputation as skilled diplomats and explorers grew. The galaxy was full of diverse and fascinating civilizations, and the Aurora's crew was determined to forge meaningful connections and build a better future for all. Captain Reyes reflected on the journey that had brought them to this point. The battles fought and victories won had paved the way for a new era of exploration and cooperation. The crew had proven that humanity's strength and resilience could make a difference, and their efforts were shaping the future of the galaxy. The Aurora's mission was far from over, but the crew was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Their journey had just begun, and the possibilities were limitless. As they ventured into new regions and established new alliances, they carried with them the spirit of exploration and the belief that their actions could make a lasting impact on the galaxy. The stars were their guide, and the universe was their canvas. The crew of the Aurora embraced the unknown with courage and curiosity, knowing that their journey would continue to shape the future of the galaxy. The echoes of their victories and the promise of new horizons drove them forward, as they set out to explore the vast expanse of space and make their mark on the stars. Echoes of the past. As the Aurora continued its voyage through uncharted space, the crew encountered a mysterious signal emanating from a distant star system. The signal was faint and intermittent, but its origin seemed to be from an advanced civilization. Intrigued, Captain Reyes decided to investigate the source of the signal. The Aurora entered the star system, its sensors working tirelessly to locate the origin of the signal. The system was home to a large, ancient-looking space station orbiting a barren planet. The station appeared to be long abandoned, its once glorious exterior now showing signs of wear and neglect. Lieutenant Martinez and Chief Engineer Carter led the team in investigating the space station. The station's architecture was a mix of familiar and alien elements, suggesting it had been designed by a civilization with both advanced technology and a rich history. As the team boarded the station, they discovered an array of artifacts and databanks. The station's logs were damaged, but they managed to recover some information about its creators. The data revealed that the station had once been a hub for interstellar trade and diplomacy. It had been abandoned after a catastrophic event that had crippled its systems. The crew was fascinated by the history of the station and its creators, a species known as the Elara. The Elara were renowned for their contributions to galactic culture and technology. However, the data indicated that the civilization had vanished mysteriously, leaving behind only their technological marvels. Captain Reyes and his team carefully examined the station's remaining systems. They discovered a hidden chamber containing a preserved message from the Elara. The message was encoded, and decoding it took several hours of intense work. When they finally succeeded, the message revealed a poignant story. The Elara had faced a series of internal conflicts and external threats that had driven them to the brink of extinction. In their final moments, they had sent out a distress signal, hoping that someone would find it and learn from their mistakes. They had hoped to leave behind a legacy of knowledge and warning to future generations. The message spoke of unity, cooperation, and the dangers of unchecked ambition. It was a powerful reminder of the importance of harmony and understanding among civilizations. The crew of the Aurora was deeply moved by the Elara's message and resolved to honor their legacy by continuing to promote peace and cooperation in their own travels. As they prepared to leave the station, the crew took one last look at the Elara's artifacts. The station's technology was still operational, albeit in a diminished state. They salvaged valuable components and data, which would be useful for their future missions. Returning to the Aurora, Captain Reyes held a brief ceremony to acknowledge the significance of their find. The crew reflected on the lessons learned from the Elara's story and reaffirmed their commitment to fostering positive relationships with other civilizations. The Aurora resumed its exploration mission, carrying with it the wisdom and legacy of the Elara. The crew's dedication to their new allies and their drive to explore the galaxy were stronger than ever. They approached each new contact with respect and openness, determined to avoid the pitfalls that had led to the downfall of the Elara. Their journey took them to new star systems and introduced them to diverse cultures and species. Each encounter enriched their understanding of the galaxy and reinforced their belief in the value of cooperation and mutual respect. Captain Reyes frequently reminded the crew of the Elara's message. Their mission was not only about exploration but also about building a better future for all civilizations. The Aurora's crew worked tirelessly to ensure that their actions reflected the principles of unity and harmony. The galaxy was vast and filled with both wonder and danger. The crew of the Aurora faced each challenge with courage and determination, knowing that their efforts would shape the future of interstellar relations. As they ventured further into the unknown, the echoes of the past guided their way. The lessons learned from the Elara and their own experiences served as beacons of hope and wisdom. The Aurora's journey was far from over, but the crew was prepared to navigate the complexities of the galaxy with integrity and vision. The stars continued to beckon, and the Aurora sailed toward new horizons. The crew's commitment to peace and exploration was unwavering, and their legacy of unity and understanding would leave an indelible mark on the galaxy. The future was bright, and the journey ahead promised to be filled with new discoveries and opportunities for growth. The Celestial Conclave. The Aurora continued its voyage, its crew energized by the recent discovery of the Elara station and their commitment to fostering interstellar cooperation. As they ventured deeper into uncharted territories, they intercepted another mysterious signal, this one much more powerful and organized than any they had encountered before. The signal was accompanied by a series of complex mathematical patterns that suggested an intelligent origin. Captain Reyes decided to follow the signal, which led them to a distant star system surrounded by an intricate network of asteroids and debris fields. At the heart of the system was a massive space station, larger and more advanced than anything the crew had seen. The station was shaped like a colossal ring, with glowing energy conduits running along its circumference. As the Aurora approached the station, a series of automated messages were transmitted to them. The messages were in a language that the crew had never encountered, but the patterns were reminiscent of known communication protocols. Using advanced translation algorithms, the crew began to decode the messages. They learned that the station was a diplomatic hub known as the Celestial Conclave. The Celestial Conclave was an ancient institution designed to facilitate peace and cooperation among the galaxy's most influential civilizations. It was said to be a neutral ground where representatives from various species met to discuss matters of mutual interest and resolve conflicts. The station had been in operation for millennia, serving as a testament to the galaxy's commitment to diplomacy. The Aurora's crew docked at the celestial conclave, and they were greeted by an automated reception system that guided them through the station's corridors. The interior was stunning, with a blend of different architectural styles and technologies from across the galaxy. The station was bustling with representatives from various species, each contributing to the rich tapestry of interstellar diplomacy. Captain Reyes and her team were introduced to the conclave's central chamber, where they were welcomed by the station's AI, a sophisticated entity designed to oversee diplomatic proceedings. The AI explained that the celestial conclave was hosting a special assembly to address recent disturbances in the galaxy, and the Aurora's arrival was timely. The assembly was a grand affair, attended by representatives from numerous civilizations, including some the crew had only heard about in legends. The representatives convened to discuss emerging threats, opportunities for collaboration, and the state of galactic affairs. During the assembly, it became clear that there were several pressing issues on the table. Recent conflicts between neighboring star systems had escalated, and there were concerns about resource shortages and environmental degradation in certain sectors. The representatives were eager to hear from the Aurora's crew about their experiences and insights. Captain Reyes took the floor, sharing the story of the Alara and the lessons learned from their abandoned station. She spoke about the importance of unity and the need for proactive measures to prevent conflicts. Her words resonated with the assembly, and the representatives engaged in a spirited discussion about potential solutions. The Aurora's crew also participated in various working groups, contributing their expertise on technological innovations, resource management, and cultural exchange. They collaborated with other species to draft proposals aimed at addressing the galaxy's most pressing challenges. One of the key outcomes of the assembly was the establishment of a new initiative to promote interspecies cooperation on scientific research and environmental preservation. The initiative aimed to pool resources and knowledge to tackle common problems and foster a sense of shared responsibility. As the assembly concluded, Captain Reyes and her team were honored with a symbolic gesture of gratitude from the celestial conclave. They were presented with a commemorative artifact that represented the spirit of cooperation and mutual respect. The artifact was a beautifully crafted orb, embedded with a holographic map of the galaxy and inscribed with the motto of the conclave, "In unity, we thrive." The Aurora's crew left the celestial conclave with a renewed sense of purpose and optimism. They had witnessed the power of diplomacy and the potential for positive change when civilizations work together. The experience had reinforced their commitment to their mission and their role as ambassadors of peace and cooperation. As they resumed their journey, the crew continued to engage with new species and explore the wonders of the galaxy. The lessons from the celestial conclave served as a guiding light, reminding them of the importance of unity and collaboration in a vast and diverse universe. The future was filled with promise, and the Aurora sailed forward with a deepened understanding of the interconnectedness of all civilizations. The stars were once again their canvas, and their journey was a testament to the enduring spirit of exploration and cooperation that defined the galaxy.